The landscape of the digital news media has shifted so dramatically in recent years that the very architecture of journalism has been redrawn, leaving individual reporters to operate as their own producers, directors, and anchors from makeshift setups across the capital. This independent evolution of news gathering becomes painfully evident when momentous and deeply unsettling reports break without warning, forcing veterans of the royal beat to broadcast directly to their audiences without the comforting buffer of a traditional studio crew or technical production assistants. It is during these raw, unvarnished moments of live broadcasting that the true weight of historical shifts within the British monarchy is felt most acutely by the public. The modern public square is no longer found solely in print or on television screens, but in the immediate interactive space of live digital streams where skepticism and shock collide in real time as viewers process tectonic changes in institutional dynamics. When a story of this magnitude emerges, it carries the potential to completely rewrite the established narratives of exile and duty that have defined the royal family for the better part of a decade. To remain fully informed on every sudden twist, breaking development, and deep dive analysis of these historic events as they unfold across the globe, viewers are encouraged to subscribe to this channel and join a growing community dedicated to separating fact from speculation. The atmosphere surrounding the contemporary royal court has become thick with anticipation and underlying tension, a visual reality reflected in the very locations from which these reports are dispatched. Broadcasting from the high-rise corporate offices of major national publishers overlooking the expansive London skyline underscores the relentless nature of the 24-hour news cycle, where columns and podcasts are produced in rapid succession to keep pace with an insatiable global appetite for updates. It is an environment where seasonal holidays are abruptly interrupted and seasoned investigative journalists find themselves adjusting their schedules at a moment's notice to verify details that could reshape the public perception of the crown. The initial reaction to rumors of a major family return is invariably defined by profound doubt from a public that has grown accustomed to a strict separation between the central working core of the family and those who chose a different path across the Atlantic. For years, the official stance of the institution appeared resolute, anchored by the firm precedents set during historic summits, where the boundaries of royal service and private enterprise were clearly and permanently demarcated. Yet beneath the surface of official silence and unreturned press emails, a different reality has been quietly taking shape, driven by a determination that defies the strict warnings delivered by the late monarch regarding the incompatibility of public duty and commercial gain. The ongoing speculation has created a profound sense of unease among traditionalists, who viewed the previous arrangements as an absolute settlement, an unyielding boundary designed to protect the integrity of the sovereign responsibility. As the digital comments section fills with demands for concrete proof and expressions of disbelief, the reality of the situation begins to settle in, challenging the assumption that the past configurations of the royal structure would remain immutable. This looming development represents nothing less than the systematic unraveling of years of carefully constructed boundaries, effectively nullifying the historic declarations made at the highest levels of the family hierarchy. The pursuit of a dual existence, balancing international commercial viability with the prestige of a traditional royal identity, has been a source of continuous friction. Yet it now appears closer to realization than ever before, altering the very fabric of the contemporary monarchy. The specific details of the upcoming July event in Birmingham have sent shockwaves through the institutional foundations of the House of Windsor, transforming what was expected to be a routine anniversary celebrations into an unprecedented turning point for the contemporary monarchy. the confirmation that Prince Harry will not be crossing the Atlantic alone, but will instead be accompanied by Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet, directly challenges the entire legal and structural framework that was established during the tense family meetings 6 years ago. This collective return for the 1-year-to-go countdown of the Invictus Games represents the first time the entire family unit will step onto British soil together since the historic transition, an occurrence that many traditionalists believed would never happen given the absolute finality of the decisions made at Sandringham. The news has sparked an immediate storm of controversy, forcing court observers and the public alike to confront the reality that the long-contested half-in and half-out model of royalty is being actively implemented with the tacit consent of the Crown itself. For years, the official stance of the palace was seen as an impenetrable barrier against the commercialization of royal status. Yet this sudden development suggests a significant shift in internal policy, signaling that the strict boundaries once championed by Queen Elizabeth are being quietly dismantled under the current reign. The tension generated by this announcement is palpable across every tier of the royal establishment, as officials scramble to manage the logistical and public relations fallout of a move that completely rewrites the agreed terms of the family separation. This moment marks the definitive end of the post-Brexit status quo, exposing a deep and widening chasm between the strategic visions of the king and his immediate heir regarding the long-term preservation of the institution's integrity. At the very heart of this mounting crisis lies the highly contentious issue of state-funded police protection, a logistical dilemma that has fueled intense legal battles and public debate for over a year. The absolute insistence by the California-based couple that they could not possibly return to the United Kingdom without comprehensive armed security overseen by the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, known as RAVC, had previously created an effective stalemate. Public declarations concerning the extreme safety risks faced by the family, including explicit fears of targeted attacks, had framed the security question as an insurmountable barrier to any meaningful reconciliation or physical return. The fact that an official visit involving the entire family is now going ahead leads to the unavoidable conclusion that a significant accommodation has been reached behind closed doors, granting the very protections that were once systematically denied. This apparent concession represents a monumental victory for the Sussex legal strategy, effectively securing the internationally protected person status they have consistently coveted since their departure. Within the broader government and royal establishment, whispered reports regarding Project Thor have gained immense credibility, suggesting that influential figures have actively engineered a pathway for a part-time working royal presence within the United Kingdom. This development is viewed by many as a direct capitulation to a standing offer outlined on the couple independent website, which has remained online for years as a testament to their unwavering desire to maintain official homes, titles, and state security while pursuing private global enterprises. The wider implications of this security accommodation extend far beyond simple logistics, striking at the core of public trust and generating a profound sense of frustration among a population that feels increasingly disconnected from the decisions of the sovereign. King Charles' apparent willingness to roll over and permit this arrangement is being interpreted by a vast majority of observers as a definitive sign of institutional weakness, a controversial approach to family governance that threatens to alienate his most loyal subjects. The public sentiment, clearly reflected in the overwhelming skepticism and anger visible across digital forums, demonstrates a deep-seated resistance to the idea of hosting and protecting individuals who have spent years publicly critiquing the inner workings of the monarchy. Traditionalists view the granting of these privileges as a direct insult to the memory of the late Queen, who dedicated her entire 70-year reign to the principle that selfless public service cannot coexist with private profit-making ventures. By allowing his younger son to return with full honours and state protection, the king is acting in open defiance of the prevailing public mood and the explicitly stated preferences of the British people, who overwhelmingly favour a complete and clean break. This perceived misjudgment threatens to overshadow the ongoing charitable endeavours of the wider royal family, creating a persistent media circus that distracts from the core duties of the sovereign and erodes the dignity of the crown. Furthermore, this dramatic shift in the royal landscape introduces an acute layer of personal and professional tension for Prince William and Catherine, who have borne the heaviest burden of public duty during a period of immense familial hardship. The Prince of Wales has consistently advocated for a resolute, uncompromising stance modelled after historical precedents of absolute exile for those who choose to step away from their constitutional responsibilities. The sudden re-establishment of a rival royal court on British soil, complete with state security and official patronage, represents a profound betrayal of William's strategic vision for a streamlined, focused monarchy. This development forces the heir to the throne into an incredibly difficult position, as he must navigate the immediate fallout of his father's decisions, while attempting to protect his own family from the inevitable media storms and emotional upheaval that accompany every Sussex appearance. The contrast between the steady, quiet service of the Prince and Princess of Wales and the highly commercialised, media-savvy approach of the returning family promises to create an unsustainable dynamic within the public sphere. As the king asserts his absolute authority to dictate family policy, he effectively binds the hands of his successor, leaving William to inherit a fractured institution where the boundaries of duty and celebrity have become permanently and dangerously blurred. The deep systemic reasons behind this unprecedented institutional capitulation can be traced directly back to the chaotic events of early 2024, a period that fundamentally reshaped the internal power dynamics of the British monarchy. When King Charles announced his cancer diagnosis in February of that year, the disclosure was handled in a remarkably disorganized fashion, deviating sharply from the strict protocols of narrative control perfected by Queen Elizabeth throughout her 70-year reign. The premature announcement of a routine procedure for a benign enlarged prostate inadvertently created a public relations trap when subsequent tests revealed a more serious malignant condition. This forced the palace press office to rapidly adjust its messaging, resulting in a sudden highly alarming announcement just days later that triggered a sense of global panic and an immediate realignment of royal authority. During those initial uncertain months, as the king retreated from public view to undergo cutting-edge immunotherapy and advanced RNA cancer vaccines at the London clinic, a massive transfer of functional influence occurred, with power flowing rapidly toward the Prince of Wales. This temporary shift led many within the palace walls to assume that William's streamlined, uncompromising vision for the future of the monarchy was becoming an immediate reality. However, the extraordinary success of the King's medical treatments has completely altered this trajectory, pulling the sovereign back from the brink of physical frailty and granting him the prospect of reigning for another 2 decades. Reinvigorated by his recovery, King Charles has moved decisively to reassert his absolute authority over the crown, effectively reminding his heir that the royal hierarchy operates on strict military principles, where the commands of the sovereign must be obeyed without question. This restoration of parental and institutional control has cleared the path for the implementation of a highly controversial reconciliati on strategy. one heavily driven by the King Internal Advisory Circle, including his influential Deputy Private Secretary, Siobhan Rydqvist. This faction within the palace has long argued that the ongoing public warfare is actively detrimental to the health of the king and the long-term stability of the crown, advocating instead for a pragmatic resolution that accommodates the younger son. This perspective, however, stands in stark opposition to the deep, lingering trauma experienced by the royal family and the British public over the actions of the California-based couple during the final years of the late Queen life. Traditionalists remain deeply resentful of the immense emotional distress caused to Queen Elizabeth as she faced her final illness, while simultaneously dealing with highly publicized, commercialized critiques of the institution she had spent her life defending. The biological reality of aging and the fragile nature of long-distance family relationships have also introduced a darker, more painful element to these negotiations, as observers note that the withholding of the grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, has functioned as an effective tool of emotional leverage throughout this multi-year standoff. The absolute denial of physical access to the children had created a profound sense of isolation for the grandfather, rendering the eventual granting of security and official status an almost inevitable concession in exchange for family unity. To understand the full gravity of this moment, one must examine the specific biographies and motivations of the individuals driving this return, particularly as their independent commercial endeavors in the United States have faced severe stagnation. When Prince Harry and Meghan initially departed from working royal life, they anticipated a meteoric rise as global content creators, securing multi-million-dollar deals with major streaming platforms like Netflix and Spotify. Prince Harry, born in 1984 as the spare to the throne, had spent his youth within the rigid constraints of military service and royal duty, a background that left him uniquely unsuited for the unpredictable realities of corporate Hollywood production. His wife, Meghan, a former television actress with a keen understanding of media branding, sought to position their new household as a progressive international powerhouse focused on modern social causes. Yet, as the years progressed, their ambitious entertainment slate began to falter, with high-profile podcast projects cancelled, animated series dropped in development, and long-delayed film adaptations stuck permanently in pre-production. The public gradually grew weary of repetitive narratives, and the couple quickly discovered that their commercial value was uniquely tied to their proximity to the very institution they had explicitly rejected. This economic reality made a return to the United Kingdom not just an emotional necessity, but a vital commercial imperative to revitalize their global brand as authentic, royal-adjacent figures with direct access to the crown. The long-term consequences of this dramatic restructuring will reverberate through the reign of King Charles and cast a long, complicated shadow over the eventual succession of Prince William. By allowing the half-in and half-out model to be successfully established, the king has effectively dismantled the foundational argument that royal titles and state protections are strictly conditional upon a lifetime of full-time public service. The returning family has demonstrated an unyielding determination to retain their official standing while continuing to operate private profit-making enterprises, a precedent that fundamentally changes the nature of the British monarchy for future generations. For Prince William, the arrival of a rival, part-time royal court on domestic soil presents an exhausting, ongoing administrative and personal challenge that will require an immense amount of political will to manage. Rather than focusing the energy of his own future court on modernizing the institution and championing core constitutional duties, the heir to the throne will be forced to navigate a permanent media circus and constant internal friction. As the preparations for the July event in Birmingham move forward under the highest levels of state security, the nation watches with a mixture of fascination and deep apprehension, fully aware that the House of Windsor